Mira Business FM. The sound of success.
This is Mira Business FM. It's the morning drive with me, Tim Elliott. info@mira.fm to contact us, or whatsapp.mira.fm. 522-789-567 is the number. Right now, we're going to, excuse the pun, shift gears to a growth industry in the Gulf Motorsport. Between the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain and Qatar, the region's rapidly becoming a global motorsport powerhouse. Billions invested in infrastructure, in talent development, events, electric racing technology, and motorsport-linked tourism and manufacturing. So, Formula One weekends that pack hotels and airports, national racing series, nurturing the next wave of Gulf-born drivers, to new investments in electric, sustainable mobility and high-performance engineering. So motorsport isn't just entertainment, it's big business, and it is accelerating. And our next guest lives and breathes this world. He spent years covering the commercial, regulatory, and competitive sides of motorsport across the Gulf Cooperation Council, the GCC. He's worked with race teams, with organisers, with federations and the wider motorsport business ecosystem. Alastair Moffitt is the editor-in-chief of the Gulf Motorsport Business Newsletter, one of the region's go-to sources for trends, investment deals, team developments, and industry insights. So a lot to introduce you with, Alastair, but there's a great deal to say. So welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good to have you with us. I wanted to start to go right back to the beginning with you, Alastair. What was it about motorsport that hooked you? What pulled you in?
My parents. I have my parents to thank for this, and it's being there on site. It's seeing the sounds and the atmosphere, the emotions of being at a racetrack. It's something that TV does a good job of conveying this, but there's nothing like seeing it in real life.
There's nothing like being there. It's the roar of the engines, and you can never get across, can you? I always think this is so true. You're right. TV does a great job, and the coverage is fantastic, but being there and cars screaming by, it's visceral. It kind of tugs at your innards.
It's something your brain doesn't accept when you see the speed the cars can accelerate at and slow down. The braking is something that's kind of underrated. When you see a Formula One car under braking, you cannot imagine how they can slow from that speed to a slow corner in such a short distance. It's something that your brain takes a long time to assimilate. And then the noise, of course. That's something you never get used to. And I think all of us who've worked in motorsport for many years have a little bit of a ringing in the ears from the old V8 Formula One cars.
Well, so you love it. Let's talk a little bit about the Gulf, the rising kind of footprint of motorsport here in the region. Well, what's driving this? Well, it's a rapid expansion. Let's put it that way. What's driving it?
Yeah, it is a rapid expansion. I mean, it's only 21 years ago you had the first Grand Prix in the region. And at that point, Bahrain, I think their target was simply to put Bahrain on the map. Raise awareness of the country in terms of a business and a tourism destination. And since then, that's a template, and it's been used by Abu Dhabi, by Qatar, by Saudi Arabia, and it works. It reaches billions of people, and the demographic for Formula One, it's a high net worth demographic. So people who can do business deals and do sponsorship deals and move industries here or there, they're looking at it and they're seeing modern, functioning, ambitious countries, and that's driving this boom because it's bringing investment back into the country. Yes, there's a lot of money up front to build a circuit, to bring the racing series to you, but in the end, this money is coming back, and it comes back over a longer term. So it's a big hit in terms of cost initially, but over 10 or 20 years, and I think Bahrain is the good example of that, there is a reward, and it's a long-term reward in terms of business, in terms of industry diversification, and in terms of tourism.
You mentioned Bahrain as I guess the kind of initial driver in terms of the strategy, but how do you see the strategy here in the Emirates, in Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and then obviously Bahrain as well, differing?
Yeah, the Emirates are actually an interesting one, specifically between Abu Dhabi and Dubai, because Abu Dhabi has spent As they spent big on a very, very glamorous, exceptional racetrack. They talk about it as $1 billion racetrack, and they've brought Formula One since 2009, and that's always been there as the flagship for Abu Dhabi Motorsport. Dubai has set about a more grassroots level, so more GT car racing and more local racing. And that's quite a big difference. If you see the two circuits, they're both very impressive, but one of them is clearly aiming on a more glamorous level, but they're both successful. And when you see across the region, Saudi Arabia, I think by nature, they're quite instant. They put big money in and they want big reward. And what they've done is bring Formula One very, very quickly, bring it to a glamorous location, put big infrastructure behind it, and they're even putting in programs to bring in the next wave of talent within their industry, within driving pool of talent. Qatar started actually with two-wheel motorsport. They were a pioneer in terms of MotoGP. Only in the pandemic they started to switch their view towards Formula One, and since then have gone really big with that. So that started in a slightly more grassroots way, and since then, I think with the World Cup, that brought quite the glamour of the big ticket event to them. And Formula One is definitely a big ticket event, just under the World Cup as one of the most impactful and known sporting brands out there.
It's
And
certainly.
Bahrain, yeah,
Sorry, go
sorry,
on.
go for it.
Go on. Sorry.
I was going to say Bahrain, they're a pioneer. They established this. They established a template,
Yeah.
and they've tried to build on that over 20 years, and they have. When you see the grandstands at the last Bahrain Grand Prix or the Qatar Grand Prix just a week or so ago, and then I compare it to when I was first in Bahrain for the Grand Prix, the first Grand Prix in 2004. There's a lot of hard work has gone on there, and it works. There is a motorsport culture is developing, and that's what all of the countries in the region are aiming to do, is to develop a motorsport fan and industry culture.
It's interesting that when you mention it as motorsport culture, and we really are seeing that. But in terms of the economic impact of motorsport, how do you quantify just how big an impact motorsport has made in this region?
Yeah, these are the kind of numbers that are quite closely guarded. I did a bit of research, and well, obviously that's the job. So we look around, and it it seems that you're looking at per Grand Prix in the region. An Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, for example, would expect to generate about 1 billion dirhams in terms of spending from the visitors to the city.
Right.
That's pure cash from external sources coming into the local businesses, the hotels, the restaurants, and the circuit. Obviously, on top of this, there's the unquantifiable return you receive in terms of global visibility. And I think that's almost priceless, depending on the profile of the country. I think it's fair to say Bahrain was not a destination many people in the West had in mind in 2004. Now let's say it's normalized as an obvious destination for travel, for business. Nobody thinks twice to say, I could go to Bahrain. 25 years ago, I think if you told people that in the street, they would ask you, where is Bahrain? What is Bahrain? So that level of awareness is almost priceless.
It is. I mean, to be fair, on Bahrain, I mean, they've been prime movers in this region for some time. In the 70s, Concorde was flying here. To
Yeah.
make that investment into early F1 has clearly paid off. Let me ask you a little bit more while we're loosely on a financial subject. What kinds of major investments in terms of, I don't know, circuits or teams or events or academies, the infrastructure that surrounds F1, should we or could we be watching at the moment, Alastair?
The very big one coming soon in Saudi is a new circuit in Qiddiya. I think you're probably aware of the whole
Yeah,
development going on there, which is a massive, massive, ambitious and exciting project there. Well, a racetrack is part of it.
right.
It's being designed by Alexander Wirtz, who's a former Grand Prix driver and Le Mans winner. That looks like being something unique, something very, very special. So we can look out for that in the next few years. I expect the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix will go there in the next year. So that could be something extremely exciting, something that's already bearing fruit. Extreme H is an off-road series that's based on hydrogen technology, and that's something that Saudi Arabia has supported very strongly. The first ever Extreme H event took place just a few weeks ago in Saudi. So on the other side, in terms of developing a series and an entire ecosystem around hydrogen as a motorsport fuel, that can become very interesting. And there are a number of manufacturers interested in that fuel source. So we could see more and more of that. On the talent front, there are a number of programs in the region. I think the ones that stand out most, Yas Marina Circuit has the Yas Heat Academy, which is to encourage young drivers through karting into junior formula racing, and they're able to put these drivers into race series, which are the first stepping stones towards Formula One. This is something the Saudis are doing as well. They have a program as well to bring young drivers through different motorsport disciplines. In Qatar, the federation there has been very ambitious to brand cars with Qatar branding and put local drivers in cars. A lot of this is focused on junior and GT racing, but the trend is very clear that you're now seeing local drivers with investment from the local area taking the first steps towards professional careers where they can race internationally. So the other one to mention, I have to say, is without drivers, because this is the Abu Dhabi Autonomous Racing League. And this is an event held once a year at Yas Marina Circuit for essentially Formula One style cars without a driver, completely autonomous racing. And the progress they've made in the second year, that's just happened a few weeks ago, the event, has been astronomical. The lap times are so much better, the racing is so much better, and this is really showcasing an investment in motorsport technology for the benefit of the region and the region's industries. It's a fascinating project.
It is a fascinating project. It's almost counterintuitive, but I'm just thinking of watching an autonomous race, and there's something intriguing about that. That's for another discussion, I think. Beyond races, what are the industries that benefit from motorsport? Whatever flavor of motorsport that you have. I don't know. In terms of, is it tourism? Is it media? Is it retail?
Yeah, tourism is obviously the first line of this, because you're bringing a few thousand people to an event,
Sure.
well, many thousands of people to an event like a Grand Prix, and they have to stay somewhere, they have to eat somewhere. And that, in terms of hotels and restaurants, is a huge industry. And if you look at Yas Marina Circuit, the number of hotels that have popped up on Yas Island since the circuit was built tells you the employment opportunities and the business opportunities that arise. But it's beyond that, because motorsport, obviously, it's an industry bringing technology, bringing people, bringing equipment to the racetracks as well. So the logistics and freight aspect is quite significant. There's a lot of freight coming in for each of these events, and that keeps, it's not a glamorous or very public side of the business, but that keeps everything ticking over. That brings a contribution. In terms of media and content suppliers and content providers, you're seeing now the growth of let's say, a motorsport media industry and media culture as well, where influencers, photographers, videographers are starting to find their niche and find opportunities within motorsport in the region. So that's definitely something that, compared to 20 years ago, has changed significantly. 20 years ago or 25 years ago, you would struggle to find a motorsport expert in terms of video or photography to come and cover your race. Now I see many of them, and they're good. The talent is there, the enthusiasm is there. So you're seeing a cultural benefit from this side as well, because obviously the talents that they develop during motorsport are applicable for other businesses as well. And automotive in general, I think, benefits significantly from motorsport being in the region. In the end, the manufacturers are racing to sell cars and create a passion and an excitement for cars. So that has a knock-on effect in terms of the sports cars you might see on the street, or the ambition of the 10-year-old kids. What car do they want to drive, and what merchandise might they wear? They buy this merchandise locally. They ultimately will buy cars locally. So it's more than just entertainment, as you say. There is a deep industry behind it in terms of suppliers, even security at the racetrack. there's a lot of racetracks, there's a lot of security guys. This is bringing employment to people at different levels, and of course construction. If you build a $1 billion circuit like Yas Marina, you need a lot of people there to build it. So it's a very wide net in terms of the spend and the impact on the local economy.
It's so much more than just the traveling circus coming to town. It does allow so many local companies to capitalize. I'm interested. Is there a potential for this region, for the Gulf, to become a hub for motorsport related manufacturing? I don't know, for research and development, for engineering services, do you think?
I think absolutely there is. I think what you're seeing in terms of competition now is that it's the hub for winter competition. There's hardly a weekend goes by without serious racing happening in the region. Now, over 20 years or so, we've seen more local teams working there. I think we will see high-tech industries growing in the region related to motorsport. I think they are looking at R&D, material research, anything related to AI and computer related design. So I think we will see, and there will be a team eventually in Formula One that has a campus within the Gulf region because the talent is there as well. You have a fantastic education system. You have enthusiastic young people who are keen to work in this area. It makes sense, and I'm sure it will happen in the coming years. And the ambition of the different countries in the region, I will be amazed if in 10 or 20 years we're not looking at least one Formula One team with a base in the region.
I completely agree with you. I think we're in a very unique location. You mentioned a word there, ambition, and I think you can't overplay the ambition that we see in this region. Forget the fact that there's plenty of fuel and all the other stuff, all the peripheral stuff around that. But the ambition, I think, is what drives here. That's such a key throughout the Gulf.
Yes, absolutely. This this is clear on every level. If it's the spec of a racetrack, if it's the number of cars on a local motorsport grid, the infrastructure behind all of the motorsport there, and the way it is delivered. I've been to many, many different races in different series in different parts of the world, but the welcome and the quality of the experience of racing in Bahrain or in Abu Dhabi is on a completely different level. And that speaks for an ambition to portray the region and the country in the best possible way. And I think that's something that maybe 50 years ago was a point in Europe. The European racetracks are not able to express this ambition. The regions are maybe not focused on motorsport in the same way. And then that's a huge, huge strength. It's not only about money. The ambition means they wish to deliver a great service and a great opportunity and grow the nation, grow the community and the people there. And this is paying off, undoubtedly, and it will pay off over a long term, I'm sure about that.
Let me just touch on the UAE with you, Alastair, for a
Mhm.
moment. We've got obviously Yas Marina, the F1 circuit. We also have Dubai Autodrome, not that far away from where I'm sat at the moment. But what do you see as the pathway forward for the United Arab Emirates in motorsport terms?
I think they're taking the right steps and have taken the right steps. As I said earlier, that you have this dual approach of very, very high level exclusive Yas Marina circuit and Dubai Autodrome, which is a little bit more accessible. And because they're close by geographically, there is now, you're starting to see local race tracks and local race series growing. And you're developing a culture. The culture already exists now in karting. So there's a very strong karting culture, and this is over years translating into local race series. Like the Gulf Radical Cup, for example, was the first race series ever, basically, in the Gulf region. That started in Dubai in 2004. After 21 years, this is going, and now there are probably 5 or 10 race series, and that's the way to embed motorsport culture within the UAE, and it's happening. I think it will happen more. You will see the Ferrari Challenge, which is a spectacular race series that starts in 2027, I believe, in the region, and that's very heavily linked to UAE and therefore Dubai and Yas Marina circuit. That will bring a new level of local racing, an incredibly glamorous level of local racing, and that bridges the gap between grassroots, very local racing and international racing. That will help local drivers step up and move through GT racing on into a professional international stage, and the teams as well. You will have local teams participating who will learn and will get better. And I think that element of developing the culture of driver, team, and industry, that's where you have a long-term future and a long-term success, because you can't do this overnight. You need to build the foundations. And I think that's what's happening now. Ideally, that would be encouraged, and we continue to see different levels of international racing in the region and support and encouragement for local racing and local drivers so that they meet in the middle and you create a perfect pathway for your young kart driver, your young engineer, or your ambitious small team to move all the way from extremely local through national to international and then hopefully to the very top level, Formula One.
Let's hope so. I mean, each of the nations in this region have very specific economic strategies. The vision here in the United Arab Emirates, the vision in Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Bahrain. Let me ask you to just jump ahead, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 years. Where do you see motorsport in the Gulf over, a short, medium term?
I can only see the growth increasing. I'd actually be surprised if we don't see another circuit or two coming along, because over the winter period, the circuits now are getting busy and there is an increasing and never-ending demand. So I would see more international racing. I would think that could be even more Grand Prix, but certainly on the second level of international racing, I think we'll see more of these races in the region. And I believe we will start to see, as we said earlier, there will be teams established, international teams who will have a footprint in the area, means recruiting local talent and having local headquarters to facilitate it. The testing and development possibilities on track, given the weather and given the facilities, they're almost endless. And this has really great appeal, great value to motorsport. So I'm sure we'll see other examples like the industry park at Dubai Motordrome. You have there something that's grown up and you have local industry growing around the seed of the racetrack. And I think we will see that on a much greater level when we get to Yas Marina and potentially other circuits as they develop. I think the motorsport business culture will grow. At the moment, you have a fan and participation culture already growing significantly. I think the business culture has potential to grow, and I think it will grow because, as you say, the governments and the industry are ambitious, and there is support for this. There is a vision. So I think in 5, 10 years, you will see more businesses very clearly linked to motorsport in the region. And I'm sure we will see an F1 driver from the region in 10 years or so. I think this is coming.
I hope so. I really do. Loads more to ask you, Alastair. Unfortunately, we just don't have time. Alastair Moffitt is the editor-in-chief of the Gulf Motorsport Business Newsletter. I've really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you for joining us.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for giving me the chance.
This is, excuse me, this is definitely Mira Business FM.